You know who I've concluded is just a character in some role-playing game being played by somebody at some table and isn't real? Josh.
And Rand.
It's a natural 20! How are we going to end this episode?
Ooh, let's find out.
What were you about to say?
Don't worry about it.
Okay.
It's fine.
We were just going with it.
We're just going with it. The guest is so funny. Randall suddenly finds the guest so funny that he has a hard time controlling himself. So Randall, I was on here on another episode with you, and we talked a little bit about D&D, and that got my brain thinking. You're a creative guy, and oftentimes I find myself running the game a lot. Yep. And I really enjoy that. Mm-hmm. And knowing you, I get the feeling you run the game a lot too?
I do. I do run the game a lot, and I've made mistakes in the past. What I've learned about my... And I actually call it game mastering usually, or storytelling.
Fair enough. Dungeon Master is kind of a
specific to D&D. Well, yeah, true. I call it storytelling most often because I actually most of my earliest role-playing experiences are with the White Wolf storytelling system.
Sure.
Plus, I like to make my stories that are more like... I approach dungeon mastering as though we're all co-authors in some grand epic story. But I do my stories semi-improvised.
Okay.
I'll have like a vague, like, okay, in this frame is my story. I want to get from this point to this point. Whatever it takes to get to that point, we'll just figure it out. Because I found that just like with my story, with my performing style, the more scripted I get, like the less good I get with GMing. And you probably have a different... How do you...
Well, for me, again, this sort of portrays our different approaches. Me, I'm very mechanical about it. Okay. I look at it, I'm like, okay, I want to have a good experience for the players. What challenges can I put in their way? And the story, I find I just kind of make up as I go along.
Right.
Which is fun. So for me, a lot of it is challenge building, and how can I like sort of get the players, because a lot of players, they want to be good, they want to do well, and so they sometimes will sort of they'll be powerful, they'll be good, and so I want to make sure that it's not just a walk in the park for them.
Yeah, and I when I explain what I do, I do it that way. Like, I will come up with encounters, and I'll have like bookmarks and monsters that I'm going to use or whatever. But yeah, and if I don't use it, then I don't use it, because they might go a different direction. Because I don't know, because you'll read like these written adventures, and I'll think, but how do you force them through the story? Because they can easily just take a left turn with it.
My players do that to me all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, you can't write too much, because then they'll toss it out the window.
Yeah. We need to write an adventure, but it needs to be like vague, except that, like, the encounters need to be specific.
Right.
But the in between the points need to be just like, and then however you do it, get to this point.
I was actually playing in a game one time, and the DM had us going through this jungle, and there were these giant spiders, which, I mean, Randall, you've expressed to me that spiders are maybe not your favorite thing.
True.
I have to admit they're not my favorite either. I can perhaps stand up to a small one, but if a giant spider approaches me, I'm a little scared. So these like giant spiders popped out of nowhere. We tried to like fight them, and one of them just like homeboyed up and was like, "Nope, you can't touch this." And we're like, "All right, time to leave." And we booked it out of there. Uh-huh. And we looked at the DM, and he goes, and he takes his papers and he rips them up, and he goes, "I need 5 minutes." I felt so bad. So that's why I don't tend to write very specific stories ahead of time.
Well, and I think that's where, because my style is very much not. I mean, we might go a chapter or two between actual fights, or more even sometimes, and that's kind of where having like a story to fall back on that everybody's on board with going along with helps.
Okay, that makes
like
sense.
If there's like a romance going on or some kind of like, side. Background thing going on, they go to that, and you kind of do that for a while and try to get the story back on track through that.
Okay,
I found
that makes sense. That makes sense.
So, have you ever, like, as a GM, what do you think of characters who min-max, and how do you prevent that?
Well, again, the mechanical side of me is very focused on like, all right, min-maxers. How am I gonna counter that? Because I get a little competitive that way, and so for me, I tend to like really dig into the rules, and I find every little like detail about the rules, and I make sure, okay, I can find a way around this, and so I invariably come up with these elaborate combat scenarios, and where I think I might be a villain because I begin like luring the players into this trap, and then sure enough, there's like every possible counter.
You're the witch from Hansel and Gretel.
I might be. But yes, and so I get the problem is that by the end of it, I feel bad because I've created this like diabolical like torture machine, and at the end, like the players are just like physically exhausted, even though all they've been doing is rolling dice. Like they're just like mentally, emotionally, and physically exhausted, and I'm like, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to. Murder's always funny.
Yeah, because she's in it, and they're just exhausted. Sometimes I laugh so hard that I cough, and you just made me do that.
I might die.
I know. I might die. Oh. Thank you guys for liking and subscribing. Let us know in the comments. Do you like role-playing games? Do you have a GM style or DM style?
Do you plot the murder of your friends?
Do you? Let us know. And if you do post that, we just make sure it's nothing that we need to call the cops about. And check out our website, rampantcomedy.com. Have a good one, guys.